So let's look at the how you would determine your goals. You have academic, professional, and personal. And so let's look at them all for a minute here. So academic, you know you need to get a bachelor's degree if you are going to enter certain fields. Not a degree is not always required to have a job, but if you are going to have a career and contribute to your field, you will need a degree eventually. So that's your bachelor's degree. Some fields only require the bachelor's degree and maybe a few continuing education courses or like a licensing. So for instance, for accounting, you might just need the 4-year degree plus the CPA license, and that might be fine. Of course, if you ever decided to move up the corporate ladder and into an administrative position, you will need an advanced degree, usually an MBA. So you have your bachelor's, your master's degree, any licenses or certifications. So I know if you want to get into the financial field, tax field, accounting fields, any of those types of fields, they usually require some sort of licensing, certification, and as well as continuing education. Continuing education could be at the institution or it could be through the job. The job might require you to complete professional development courses. So for a career, and really today any job now requires some sort of work towards improving yourself or updating your knowledge base. So let's look at professional. So if we are looking at professional, it is clear that everyone has to pay their dues. Paying their dues is always entry level. And you stay in a position 2 to 5 years at the entry level, whatever that job is, whatever that position is, whatever that industry is. And then the normal trajectory is always supervisor to manager. And so you stay in that job 5 to 8 years. And that's because you want to build a record of success. Just because you do something well the first time does not necessarily mean that you should be promoted. The problem with some companies is, and some people who are in charge, they want to promote someone just because they had that one success. And they sort of discount the person who has stayed in a position and has built a record of successes. And so they look at that person as almost stagnant, which is really odd because the person who has done something well just once really hasn't proven himself or herself that they can do it again. So you want to stay in positions 2 to 5 years, depending upon what it is you are trying to accomplish. So 5 to 8 years, supervisor manager, director to VP, likely 10 to 15 years. So that's at your 10th year, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15th year. And then by the time you become a CEO or entrepreneur, that's 15 plus years. And I want to make a distinction with entrepreneur. People think just because they start a business that they are considered an entrepreneur. No, you just created a job for yourself. And so you basically have to go through the whole steps that you see here to later become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who has multiple businesses, starts and sustains and is successful in multiple businesses, that you can then call that person an entrepreneur, and then CEO of their own company, because for those businesses, they tend to have presidents, vice presidents, supervisors, managers, directors, etc. So that's the difference between you just starting a company, which is essentially creating a job for yourself, and actually being a company that owns multiple companies, like what you would see on Shark Tank. Now let's look at personal. So finances, I feel, are the most important, next to romance, and then by extension, toxic relationships. And these are the areas I feel, finances, toxic relationships, family relationships, and then personal growth. Finances and toxic relationships are the two types of relationships that you have that can affect you in your professional life, and definitely in your academic life if they are a distraction. How many times have we seen people go down publicly because of what was going on in their personal life. So finances is something that can take you down quicker than anything if you don't have a good handle on your money and how you use your money and where you put your money and what you do with your money with other people. And then of course toxic relationships can be such a addiction if depending upon the type of relationship, and you don't want to worry about something like that as you are trying to go up the career ladder or as you are trying to get your degrees, especially if you are going for a PhD. So these are areas that you want to think about in terms of how to determine your goals, because if you get into one toxic relationship and you don't resolve that within yourself, you are bound, or you are likely to get into another type of toxic relationship just with a person with a different face. And so they will continue to follow you around until the point that what you are doing personally becomes public. And then family relationships, the family dynamic could have been a toxic dynamic, or it could have been a very helpful, supportive dynamic. It makes a difference. It makes a difference who you pick as a wife or who you pick as a husband, because if they are not supportive, they're going to be very, destructive towards your goals. So that's family relationships, what you do with your family, what you do with yourself, what you do with your kids are all important. And then personal growth is something that you want to set as a goal. For me, personal growth is trying to tackle my finances, and I'm in the process of creating audio lectures for that, so that I'm just no longer struggling in that area with the misunderstanding, with the misguided, misinterpreted understanding that I am moving towards financial wellness. And so those are areas that I also want to tackle.